Hello, good evening. I welcome you all to this new live session from Team Environment and Nature Jhansi. So, Neena ma'am has learned traditional chants from her grandfather in a village in South India when she was just 9 years old. She rediscovered chanting with Krishna Das sir in 1996. She was accompanied by Krishna Das sir in 2013 with Grammy Awards. In January 2013, she released her debut album Antaryami, Knower of All Hearts. Since 1998, she has supported conservationists in preserving the sacred wilderness and forest of India via her charity savingwildtigers.org. So let's welcome Neena Rao ma'am. Hello. Hello ma'am, how are you?
Namaste. Very well. You?
I'm very good. On behalf of Team
Excellent.
Environment and Nature Jhansi, I welcome you to this live session where we will be discussing today about chanting, spirituality, and environment as well.
All my favorite topics.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
So, ma'am, my first question to you is how did chanting and devotional music become part of your life? And my second question, along with this question, is what is spirituality and how is spirituality different from religion? This I want to know.
Okay. Well, chanting, when we grow up in India, we hear it all the time, don't we? And so that's what happened for me. When I was a child, I was visiting, I lived abroad, but my grandfather lived in Kerala, in a house in a village. And we used to go during our summer holidays. And I actually didn't know that he chanted until one day I noticed a harmonium in his house. And I said, Ajja, like, what, can you show me how to play this? And he said, I'll show you, but you have to sing with me. So I had never done any chanting from India at that point. And so I said, sure. So he actually started with a bhajan for Ganesha. And that's interesting because it's Ganesha Chaturthi right now, right? Coming up tomorrow or
Yeah.
today.
Yes.
So I said, well, tell me the words. And he said, well, just listen and repeat, and when we're children, it's so easy to do that. And so when he started playing, everybody came from the kitchen, from this place, that place, and sat down. My cousin started singing. And I think that was the moment inside of me that I recognized the spiritual nature of chanting. I mean, I didn't know it in my mind because I was 9. So what do I know?
Yeah.
But I remember now thinking or feeling that it changed something inside me that was different than singing regular songs. There was something different about it. So that my understanding now is the spiritual nature of the invocational quality of the names of God, which is what we're chanting when we do these bhajans or kirtan or any kind of chanting in this tradition. And it was later on during that trip when the whole village came over to my grandfather's house, and I realized that, everybody knew something. Everybody knew how to chant. There were young people, old people. They didn't have to be musicians. But the quality of the chanting, it didn't matter whether you were a good musician or not. It was the devotion. And that's what I remember when I think back now. Nobody talked about it. In India, we just do everything. It's part of the way we live.
Yeah.
But I didn't chant for many years after that. And it was only when I was in my 30s, and that was back in 1996, I started doing yoga in New York. And when I went to my yoga class, I was hearing recordings of chanting. Now, I listen to Indian classical music all the time, and I find it very soothing and satisfying and interesting for me. But then I went to this yoga retreat, and that's where I first heard Krishna Das chanting. And I was immediately taken back to that moment of time when I was a child and I heard the chanting from my grandfather, and that same feeling came back. And again, I don't know I don't know if I realized that back then, but now when I think about it, I realize like, oh, that's the same timeless place that lives everywhere inside of everybody. And you can connect with that place
Exactly.
by chanting, but also I recognize that in all the years that I spend in the jungle or in the bush in Africa, there are moments when you sit in silence with the trees or with the animals, listening, waiting, or you put your hands in the soil, or anything that is related to earth. If you really can stop thinking for a while, pay attention to what's happening around you, the sound of the trees, the sound of the birds, the color of a flower, the food that you're eating. If you give a moment to think about where that comes from, it all comes from the same place. And for me, that's what I consider spiritual.
That's amazing. So, like, have there been any moments when spiritually guided you through deep challenges in life?
Every day. But under special circumstances, I've had some difficult times like everybody in my life. And usually when I'm confronted with fear or any of these intense emotions that can stop us from feeling confident in the way that we move through our day, or we have no sense of peace and our minds are terribly distracted. I've definitely found chanting very helpful. Even if it doesn't change everything in the moment, after a little while, things change. But the thing is, you
Slowly
have
and
to
gradually.
sit and do it. Yeah, you just have to do it. And what I've understood over the years now is that I have to maintain a regular practice, no matter what's going on. So even if everything is fine, or if I'm busy or everything's normal, so to speak, if I just dedicate a little time in my day to do some kind of spiritual practice, it starts to create a very strong force inside of us, me, us, our community, to withstand and to hold everything that comes up. So I think that the practice has helped me on a daily basis, and also in trying circumstances, like if someone's dying, and you want to find a way to be with that person while they're dying, or even if they've just died and you want to be with them and their soul is transitioning. There are beautiful chants that you can do. There's ways in which you can align with that space, that spiritual space of the soul.
And what I
Yeah,
feel is that spirituality is something that connects people of all faith and religion, no matter who they are and from where they are, irrespective of boundaries of country, nationality, or anything.
100%. 100%. I mean, I grew up in many different countries. I was born in America, but I lived in Thailand, where I used to go to Buddhist temples with everybody. And I went to Catholic and Christian schools. And so I went to Mass with my classmates because I wanted to, not because I was forced to, but I wanted to. I wanted to, it felt sacred. And so when we chanted hymns to Jesus, it felt that way. You know, recently I was just flying through an airport in I think I was in Qatar, and in the transit lounge are prayer rooms, you know, where people can go to pray. And I found myself walking into the room and just sitting with them. Everybody was doing their prayer, their practice, and I just sat with them because it feels like a place where we're really trying to turn towards the divine, whatever tradition we might be from.
So, like
Yeah.
you talked about chanting. So, my second question to you is how can chanting help people who feel restless or disconnected in today's fast paced world?
Yeah. Well, you know, from the ancient traditions from all over the world and all across time, you know, whether we're talking about Native Americans on this continent, other tribes up in Africa, all across Europe before the dawn of civilization, let's say. And then, of course, in India, in the roots of our tradition, up into the mountains of Nepal, Tibet, let's going into China, Japan, everywhere. I mean, the Aboriginal tradition in Australia. Sound is a very important part of community and tuning into what is divine and what is sacred. And so the tradition of chanting exists in all communities since the beginning of time. It includes dance sometimes. There's ritual that connects the two things. But in our day and age now, you know, and the way in which people lived in the old days is that everything, there was an invocation for everything. So if you were, let's say you were from the very old days where you're hunting and gathering, for example, your food, you have to connect with the earth. You've got to connect with the animals that you might be hunting. You've got to connect with the soil, the trees, the berries, that whatever. If you're then in the farming, the agricultural era, you have to understand the elements. You've got to understand the soil. You have to understand the seasons. You have to understand the sun. I mean, everything. And the ways in which these traditional tribes and peoples connected with nature was through sound and listening and sound. And then finally, you know, we enter into the Veda, the era of Veda in India. And all of those mantras are connecting us with aspects of the cosmos, different forces of fire, of wind, of air, of dawn, of night. And this is how we're able to enter into the rhythms of nature. And so, but now where we are in this day and age, if we even tried to sit quietly and meditate, it would be really difficult. It's difficult. Meditation is not something that you do, it's something that you practice, and then you allow, hopefully, for the meditative state to arise. But they say that in the Kali Yuga, which is the era in which we're living now, that really the only practice, and I won't say this is necessarily the case for everybody, but certainly what I've heard, is that the only practice that we can actually do is chanting of the name. And particularly when we do it in Sankirtan, together in a group, we need the support of our community. We need the support of our family. We need the support of our friends. And by chanting, what's happening, there are a few things happening. One is you are chanting sacred syllables. And the understanding in mantra or sacred syllables is that already the wisdom medicine is contained in the sound of what you're chanting. But in order for the medicine to work, you have to hear and you have to speak or sing, whatever that mantra might be. And then when you're focused on a sound in such a way, you are allowing for thoughts to arise and to go away because you have to concentrate a little bit, right? And so then you're allowing the pathway into the space that is silent, where things are clear, where things are quiet, where things are peaceful. And so very often you might find, like, after you finish chanting or after you listen to a chant, if you just wait for a moment in the silence, you enter into a different space. It goes away quite
Exactly.
fast, but at least it's there. And so the more you do the practice, the more easily you enter into that space. So this is why I find chanting helpful, because it's through especially if you're doing Veda chanting and you have to pay attention to the swara and the chandas, then you're concentrating even more. But then the mantra has a magic of its own. Same with kirtan. These are the names of God. And the more we chant them, the more we are pouring water on the seed of wisdom that blossoms inside of us. Wisdom of the understanding of the nature of who we are and how we're connected with all beings, with the entire universe.
And I think if we want to heal physically, first we have to heal our souls. And we can do that by chanting, like you told us.
True, but in some cases and in many cases, we have to take care of ourselves physically on the outside too, by making sure we're paying attention to what we're eating, making sure we're resting, making sure we're exercising, making sure we go to a doctor, all the things that are necessary in our lives because we're not. There was a time when people were very intuitive and they fully understood the working of their body, and they could find their medicines by looking at the plants outside in the garden. We're not like that anymore. We need diagnosis, like,
Hmm.
to take care of our
Exactly.
body. We need to go and have tests. We need to do all those things. And everything together can help us live a healthy life.
So my second question to you is, for someone completely new to chanting, what do you suggest they should begin from? Like, I have a playlist of yours. I meditate a lot, and so I use your bhajans and your chanting videos on YouTube regularly. So, like, what you will say to those who are new to chanting?
So, nowadays we have so many resources, right? So you have YouTube. And when I first started chanting, there was nothing. There were CDs, maybe. There were tapes. There were actually audio tapes in those days. Or you listen to the radio. But in India, if we're talking to people in India, which we are, and everywhere in the world, I really recommend, well, first of all, listen to anything you can. Go on YouTube if you want to, go on Spotify, go on wherever you stream music, and look for and listen. See what feels good for you to listen to. Start there, because that's what happened to me. I went to this yoga retreat. I got to chant with Krishna Das for 2 days. And then I said, oh my God, what am I going to do? He had only one tape, and I played that tape over and over and over again. But then I started listening I went to the Indian shop here and I bought all the CDs of the different people who were chanting, and I started listening to Indians. And now, of course, it's a whole universe. Everybody chants in this world, and many people do all kinds of chanting. But I recommend listening first. Otherwise, go to your local temple where people come together. And in many places, like many places I've gone to in India, there's spontaneous, sankirtan. People start chanting together. There is nothing, in my mind, more beautiful than chanting with your community, wherever you are. And you don't have to join anything. Most of the time, kirtan is open to everybody. You don't have to know anything. You just listen and you repeat. How wonderful is that? You don't even have to have a musician's voice. You just chant. So find a way to find something that, often what will happen, you'll find something that you want to listen to over and over again. And when that happens, what you're doing is creating, what's happening is what's called Nava Shabda Samskara. So while you're listening, you're purifying the thought patterns in your mind purely by listening. Then imagine when you start chanting, what happens. So what starts to happen is that these sacred sounds start to take over in your mind and clear the space for you to receive the wisdom from the mantra, which then helps you to live the rest of your life in a good way. That's the point of doing all this. We're not trying to go anywhere else. We're here. We have to be in this world. We have to be part of our families. We have to be part of our communities. We have to be good citizens of our countries. We have to do all the things that help us feel connected with others so that we can be of service to humankind, to animal kind, to the plant world, all of it. And the way that we can do that is to start to drop our judgments and our evaluations and find a way to just accept what's in front of us and find a way to do the best that we can to help in whatever way we can. And the way that can happen is if you really open yourself to the chanting, it opens that compassionate space inside your heart. That's what happens. And when you do that, then you can really be of service. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my another question to you is, in Indian traditions, if you had to, nature is often revered as sacred. How can we revive that consciousness today?
I mean, this is a big question, you know. It's not even in India, it's everywhere, where we're so disconnected from the source of everything. We don't have light, we don't have air to breathe, we don't have water to drink, we don't have food to eat if we're not receiving it from Mother Nature. And we've forgotten that. We've literally forgotten that because all our food is packaged, our water is bottled, we have air conditioners, we have light bulbs, we have electricity, we have all that. But the more that we destroy in our environment, the less that we're going to be able to receive in terms of the richness of what nature has to offer to us. And that wealth, that treasure exists in biodiversity. It's not in monocrops of agriculture. It's in the trees, it's in the soil, it's in the worms, it's in the birds, it's in the bees, it's the frogs, the lizards, the snakes, and then all the way up to the megafauna of tigers and elephants and lions and bears and the things that we see. But we're slowly destroying their habitat. From the smallest creatures to the biggest creatures, to the trees that we're cutting down, for the farmlands, for cattle grazing, for all the things that we feel like we want to consume. And the problem is that once it's gone, there is no way to recreate what millions of years of evolution has given us. There's no way. And you can have as much AI of artificial intelligence in the world, but it's the AI of ancient intelligence that's going to persist if we protect it. And we need it. And we've forgotten that we need it. So the only way to remind everyone is to remind everyone. Look out of your window. Take a walk. Think about where your food is coming from. I think this is a very important thing. Think about where your food is coming from when you're putting your food in your mouth. Every day, look at your plate and see, oh, This rice comes from India. This dal comes from the hills of Uttaranchal, wherever things are being grown. These vegetables are coming from the local farm in Punjab. This coconut is coming from South India. This soya nuggets are coming from I don't know where. Where whatever it is, and think about how it has to grow. It has to
Exactly.
grow. It's the only way we're going to remember. And then think about all these beautiful photographs that we see out online as we're scrolling on Instagram or scrolling on Facebook of lions and tigers. They don't survive in zoos. They survive in their wild habitat. And their wild habitat is a complex interconnectivity of millions of species. And the only way the millions of species is going to survive is if you protect their habitat, which means no interference from us other than to protect it.
Aditya Rathore, one of our
Yeah.
follower wrote here that doing lot chanting from long time, I think my mind has lost the freshness and realization because earlier I used to feel so good, but slowly my mind has adopted the chanting mechanism. And now I am feeling a way to increase the intensity. Please answer this.
Mm. That can happen, because when you memorize something and you it becomes like just a by rote, and so you're not really focused on it, right? So one thing my guru used to say to us, when for my community, like a lot of our practice has to do with chanting of Hanuman Chalisa is a very big part of what we do. And she would say that it's very important that you read while you're chanting. Even if you know the words, read the words. And while you're chanting, try to pay attention to the significance of the phrase that you're chanting. Because it's very easy to chant and then be thinking about what to cook for lunch and what to cook for dinner, or feeling sad about something else, or thinking about your job. That's going to happen. But every time that happens, you must come back to it. Like you have to just say, oh, I'm thinking about something else. Okay, Vaisen, Shri Guru Charana Sarojaraja. Come back to the prayer. This is our job. This is why it's called practice. You have to come back to it. Let it go. Don't evaluate yourself. Don't judge yourself. This is just the nature of our minds. And keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back. And do a regular practice. And don't expect that you're going to feel high or great each time you do it. What will happen though is that it'll start to purify your mind. And the more you do the practice, the more you'll be able to do your practice the way you want to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, my second question to you is you are deeply involved in environmental issues, as I have seen you are working with your project Saving Wild Tigers.
Yeah.
And so, how do you feel spirituality and ecology as connected? And also, like you are doing charity concerts also, and you are using that amount for like conserving and preserving the forest and the wildlife. So,
Hmm.
I want to ask about this, like about your
Okay.
project, basically.
Sure. Um, many years ago, many years ago, when I was first married, my mother-in-law gave me The Man-Eaters of the Kumal, which was a book by Jim Corbett. And she was a Rajasthani princess herself. This was my mother-in-law when she was younger. And so their tradition, because this is what the Maharajas did, was they would preserve big tracts of land so that they could enjoy hunting, right? That's what they
Yeah,
did, which is why we even have the little bits of land, the 3% of our land that in India that's conserved for wildlife came from many of those hunting preserves. And then it was nationalized and they became into national parks and all that stuff. But so our culture, starting with religion and spirituality into the culture of royalty, helped to preserve this land, as crazy as that seems. I mean, certain things were hunted into extinction, like cheetah, for example. They don't exist in India anymore. But so I was immediately intrigued by her stories because as a hunter, as a young woman, by the time I met her, she was vegetarian and she was meditating. So she was telling me stories from when she was young. And she was just describing the way in which she understood the beauty of all these species that lived in the forest, like from a small rabbit to a deer to the tiger to elephants, everything. That really, the telling of the story was very important. And so one of the things that I like to support now in through Saving Wild Tigers is the re-education, let's say, of children, young children in India, to understand the beauty of our forests so that they understand the need to preserve it. And it's hard in some places because never mind the urban areas, but even in the rural areas when people live on the in the buffer area or adjacent to the national park, it's difficult because the wild animals often don't have enough place to move from one area to another. So animals like elephants that we can actually really love because they're so beautiful are actually one of the biggest causes of disruption of the life of the people who live outside. Their crops are taken by elephants because elephants will walk through, take their crops. Then there are subsistence farmers who have goats and cows, small numbers of them. And unless they have an enclosure to keep them safe at night, a leopard will come and take them. And sometimes these people who live around the park they don't have a lot of resources, so they send their cattle into the forest to graze. Those cattle can get taken by big predators as well. So it's an interesting balance of taking care of the people that live next to the park and and helping them live their life in such a way that they want to protect the forest. Like, it's easy for me to sit here in New York and say, yeah, you've got to, you got to protect the tiger reserve. Meanwhile, the only way in which they can subsist is to sell the little bit of milk that they produce from their goats and their cows. But if a leopard comes and takes them, then what are we going to do? What are they supposed to do? So there's so many aspects of this that we have to pay attention to. And a lot of the work that I support with the NGOs I support is to support the community, the humans that live around the park, to help them, whether they get compensated by the government when their animals are taken or when their crops are trampled, or to help if they come from a tradition of people who were originally poachers, because that's also a problem. But we help them find a way to find another means of living. So, for example, one of the projects that I support in Rajasthan near Ranthambore is the Mogia tribe that lives there. The children have access to a small computer school so that they can learn how to communicate with the rest of the world and to find work, remote work, living in Rajasthan, but to be able to use a computer and educate themselves and find work. I don't have all the answers. I leave that to the people who are living on the ground in those areas to understand the nature of the needs of those people, in addition to research by scientists for the actual needs of the wildlife, whether it's flora and fauna in the area. So it's a multi-pronged approach. And I think that this is important, whether it's India. I happen to have Saving Wild Tigers, but even in America, I support whatever is being done for the preservation of the national parks and forests here, as much as I can. Wherever I go, I think it's important to do that. If we can, in our own little homes, like here, it's very, sometimes what we do is we eradicate any of the native species that are important for pollinators, like simple things like butterflies and bees. We need to keep them alive. But when we spray pesticides, when we cut the grass and all we grow is grass, then we lose these important connectors of habitats, and they're the ones who help trees to grow. So in my garden here, I chose to get seeds of native species and just plant them. So I have a jungle in the middle, in my front of my house. So we can all do that wherever we live in the world. Rewilding is possible, but we have to do it now with native species. This is a very important thing. And that includes planting trees and whatever shrubs, flowers, fruits, whatever might be growing. In addition to the food, of course, that we have to grow for ourselves. But it's good to continue to preserve this native species in the protected areas and replant what's been taken out already.
That's very important, I think. We
Yeah.
all should work in our areas by, like you told us, by planting trees or shrubs or like protecting environment in any way we can. By just taking a small step towards it.
I think so. And, the more we connect ourselves with that, the more we understand the importance of it. Because just by planting my garden the way I did, I have so many birds and bees and butterflies and rabbits and deer. Like everybody comes through here now. And I can watch them and be happy. But I also support the work, for example, of one of the women I support is called Voices for Asian Elephants. They're trying to create corridors for elephants because elephants need to move. They can't stay in a small area of land. They eat all the food, so they have to move from one area to another. So we have to create corridors for them to move. So what she's doing is planting species of plants that encourage the elephants to eat from those as they move from one area to another, rather than going into the farmlands. And it helps them migrate from one area to another in a protected area, in a protected way. And we have to respect these animals. We have to respect these beings. And I feel that we've lost some of that. We treat animals in such a way that they can be tortured and discarded.
Exactly.
Like they don't have feelings and they don't feel pain. And that's something we have to, we have to open our hearts to this. We have to have a more compassionate heart about these things. And, I'm not saying like we rely on, animals are hunted for food. It's okay. I'm not saying everybody has to be vegetarian. I'm just saying that the way in which we interact with nature has to be more compassionate. And we have to moderate. We don't need to eat the giant quantities of things that we do. And wastage as well is part of that. Avoiding wastage.
It's very, I think, very serious issue, and we should think about it.
Yeah. And this is on land. In the water, there's a whole other thing happening in the ocean, the way in which we fish. And we have the drag nets that are pulling all kinds of coral and sharks and dolphins and turtles and all kinds of creatures that are, again, for the biodiversity of the ocean. That's just waste byproduct for the fish that we think we need to consume, the quantity. And then so much of it is wasted. Yeah.
So my next question to you is, if you had to share one mantra or thought for people feeling lost in today's world, what would it be?
That is a difficult question. Um, I'll just say that my journey with on this path of chanting as a practice began with hearing bhajans, but it was only when I started to learn the Hanuman Chalisa. And my guru recommended for all of us that we do this practice regularly to give us strength, to give us courage, to take away fear, to make our bodies strong, to make our minds strong, to open our hearts, to take care of people, to be to surrender to what is in the world. And I just think that for me that has become, the core practice for me. There are so many ways to do practices. Japa, you can do just mantra recitation. You can chant the name of Ram. You can chant the name of Devi. You can chant the name of Krishna. You can chant the name of Shiva. Like, you decide. Pick something. But for me, it's definitely been the chanting of the Hanuman Chalisa that really gave me the stamina and the fortitude to continue with the practice. And I continue to do it. You can never do it 100% correctly. So you have to perfect that. And the only way to do that is to keep doing it until you do perfect it, if in this lifetime.
So I think we all should like add chanting to our lives to tackle with the issues or the challenges that we face every day in our lives, some way or the other. That's
If
what I
that's
feel.
some if you believe that, then that's good for you. You can't prescribe things for everyone. Everyone has their own path,
Yeah.
but everyone has to try to find that place of peace inside of them. How you do that is up to you. When you do that, you can then be of best service to the world. That is all that we can do. Do you agree?
So yeah, yeah, absolutely. So as we wind up this session, my last question to you is like, what is the vision you hold for the future, both spiritually and environmentally? And by the time you answer this question, I ask all the audience or the people watching us, you can drop your question in the question box if you want to ask anything to Nina ma'am.
Also, I'd like to know what everybody else's vision, like what is their wish for the future? I would be curious to hear what people have to say.
Yes.
What is your wish? You can say it in one word if you want to. And yes, you can ask me any question if you want to. But I mean, my wish for the world is that we don't kill each other to start with. That would be nice. If we didn't have war, peace. Yes, exactly, peace. But peace has to start individually from each one of us, moment to moment. And if we could treat everyone the way we wish to be treated ourselves, I think that the world would be a very different place. But somewhere along the line, we've forgotten how to do that. We have reactive behavior. We get angry, we get jealous, we get scared. And we live in a world now where there's so much anxiety. Everybody's stressed out. I
Yes.
mean, to the point where they've become non-functional. So, and I don't want, and I find that in the younger generation, it might be more widespread on some level. Maybe. I'm not sure. It's just now we talk about it more and we have social media and there's ways in which to share. But everyone feels lost. And if we could all feel a little more connected, a little less separate, I think we could live in more peace with each other. And for me, the way in which I've been able to help myself do that is to find a few minutes in the day to do a little bit of practice. Just a few minutes. You don't have to become a sadhu. You can live your life, be a householder, be a parent, be a lawyer, be a doctor, work in a supermarket, work in the field, work behind your computer. It doesn't matter. Just find 5 minutes in the day to think about what are we doing here and how can I do my duty in this world in the best way that I can. How can I do that? Not what can everybody else do? That's not the important thing. Is what can each one of us do ourselves? If each one of us does that, and then we make a prayer that everyone should find that enlightened mind and compassionate heart. If we can wish that and pray for that in all beings, then we have a chance. And that is what the great saints are doing.
Exactly.
They pray for us.
So now, if you have any questions, you can drop here in the comment box.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your work that you're doing while people are thinking if they have something to think about? Tell us what you're doing.
Me and my brother, we both are working for like environmental issues in Jhansi because we are based in Jhansi, and so till now we have planted 350 plus trees all over in Jhansi, near holy places, basically temple, mosque, or some gurudwara or church. And beside this, we have conducted online and offline mode workshops as well about gardening, about composting, about bioenzymes, raising awareness about reducing, reusing, and recycling. And beside this, we also go and visit schools and colleges, teaching and telling children about the importance of environment and how we can help nature in like building it more stronger by our small acts that we can do, by planting even a single tree, or like by reducing or cutting short of plastic in our daily lives.
That's beautiful. You start there and you keep going and people will find ways to bring that into their lives. I think that's really important. And just if you just think about where everything is coming from and what we're putting back into the world, this will help for sure. So that's wonderful. And people will know how to find you to hear about what you're sharing with the world. This is good.
I think it's pleasure talking to you about spirituality, about chanting, about environmental issues.
Do you have a practice, Sami?
No,
Your own spiritual practice?
um, like I use chanting videos basically from YouTube, like of Krishna Das sir, of yours also as well, and of
And
others
do you
also.
sing along? Do you sing along when you're listening? Or
No,
you
I
just
just
listen?
no, I put earphone or headphones basically, and I just close my eyes and like I sit in this mudra,
Mm,
or like doing this Gyan mudra.
beautiful. Wonderful. Try singing along sometime. No one has to hear you.
Sure, sure.
It helps to actually say the mantra. It's good. Very, very good. Very good. Thank you so much for having me here. It's nice to talk about these things, and I wish you all the best in spreading the word about what you're doing and it's an amazing thing planting a tree, because look at what comes when when you do that. You just nurture it a little bit, and it has all the wisdom right in that little seed. So think of a mantra like that. All the wisdom is in that seed syllable. You just have to water it by chanting.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am, for connecting with us and for sharing such wonderful thoughts about chanting, about spirituality.
Ram Ram.